And that's when I started seeing the power a standout client experience can actually have on your business. I began re-engineering my entire client experience from the first contact to the project delivery and beyond. And then with each client, I would try to tweak and improve and innovate. And therefore my revenue per client was higher and actually increased by 40% at that point. My referral rate doubled because almost every client I worked with would actually refer me to one or more people.
Hey everybody, what's up? We have Gigi on the show and she's got an awesome presentation to share with us on many different topics. So without further ado, Gigi, could you please just introduce yourself, tell us a little story, and then tell us what we're going to learn today?
Of course. Thanks for having me, Chris. So I'm Gigi. Just before we hit record, I told Chris that actually my full name is Yevgeniya Davarashvili, and I'm not going to force him to try and pronounce it. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. So that's why most people call me Gigi. I'm a brand and web designer. I've been running my solo design studio, 16 Creative, since about 2017. I say about because it's a little hard to actually pinpoint exactly when I fully committed to freelancing. I quit my corporate job working as a brand executive in London back in 2016, and it took me some time to really figure out what I wanted to do because I'm not really a designer. I'm self-taught designer, graduate of YouTube University, and really commit to doing this full time. And then I'm also a brand educator, business educator. So that's a pivot I actually made in 2020 when the pandemic hit and the design side of my business kind of quiet down a little bit. A lot of clients get scared what's going to happen, etc. So I decided to take a step back and see I can pivot a little bit in my business and use my experience in business and in management and marketing from my corporate era and basically start teaching designers those business skills so they can confidently, sell their services and market themselves, raise their prices, and ultimately build a design business.
All right. What are we going to learn from you today?
Today, I actually want to talk about client experience because client experience is something that really changed my business. And it's one of those things that is often forgotten, something that a lot of people don't really focus on because it seems very natural. It seems very obvious. Like, of course, we want our clients to have a really great experience of working with us. Who wouldn't, right? But a lot of people don't make the conscious effort of actually focusing on client experience. And so before you kind of roll your eyes at me and you think about, oh my God, this is just another thing I'm going to have to add to to my plate, another thing that I'm going to have to work on, I want to tell you a really quick story of how client experience changed my business. So the year, I believe it's about 2018, late 2018, and I'm working at this point full-time as a freelancer designer. And I have a few retainer clients, but I'm hustling hardcore. I really try my best to get my name out there. I'm on social media, I'm networking, I'm going to all these events. My internal introvert is dying because I can't go and meet so many people. So I'm really hustling hardcore. And I realized that I am yet to hit a project that is the project. We all have that one project that changes the entire route of our career, that lights this light bulb on our path. And so one day I get an inquiry from this business owner, and it's the biggest project to date. And I get really excited. I really want to get this project, but then I'm also terrified because the project really challenges me to push my prices way beyond my comfort level. Back then I was charging maybe 2-3K on average per project. And I think my highest project back then was around 4K, and this was a 12K project. And so I suddenly have this major freak out moment and realize, oh crap, I need to up my game because I really want to show up the kind of business that charges 10K without really making a big deal out of it. Because when I was working corporate, I remember I worked with this consultancy that worked with high net worth clients, high net worth individuals. And so presentation always really mattered. I'm talking from the proposal you sent to the client to the brand of tea you're going to serve at the client meeting. It really mattered. So here I was looking at this client, and this client for me was my kind of high net worth client. And I'm looking at my Word doc contract and my Frankenstein proposal, realizing that this is not really how I want to be perceived. And so I spent 2 days completely rebuilding my proposal. I remember I even changed my email signature to look more professional. And I end up landing this client. We have a great time. We have a really great project. Lots of lessons learned, trying to get a project well beyond my scope. And on the final call, on the wrap-up call, as part of her feedback, she tells me, Gigi, I work with a lot of contractors in my business, but this was by far the most thoughtful, fun, personalized, and easy experience I ever had. And for me, this was that moment. This is the moment when the light bulb turns on, but I didn't really know what to make of it. And so a couple of days later, I get an email from one of her friends, and she tells me, hey, Justine told me so much about you and what you've done for her. Can we jump on a call? And so I land another client. And that's when I started seeing the power a standout client experience can actually have on your business. And after that, I basically began re-engineering my entire client experience from the first contact to the project delivery and beyond. And then with each client, I would try to tweak and improve and innovate and really learn about what are the things that my clients actually care about. And that was a game changer for my business, because not only I was actually spending less time on the admin side, especially on my business, because I streamlined and automated and basically templatized a lot of different areas of my process, but my clients were happier, and therefore my revenue per client was higher and actually increased by 40%. And clients started to become repeat clients, and my referral rate doubled at that point, because almost every client I worked with would actually refer me to one or more people. So that's why I wanted to chat about today. And funny enough, earlier today, one of my clients actually sent me a testimonial. So this is a project we just launched recently. This is a really great example of how clients are impressed in the moment by your technical skills. Of course, the beautiful designs you're going to create for them. But what they're going to remember is your experience. So imagine if, you could also increase your revenue and reclaim your time at the same time. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out what blog post to write or what to post on Instagram, you actually let your clients do the marketing for you. Because that's the real power of a standout client experience. And so today I want to really break down the in and outs of leveraging your client experience and how to use that as your secret weapon, so to say, for scaling your design business without losing your sanity. And I think we need a little bit of a drinking game here, counting how many times I'm going to say client experience, because it's going to be a lot.
Just drink water, everybody, but you can drink every single time she says client experience.
Yes. So with that, we know that client experience is basically all of the interactions that your clients will have with you and your brand. Right? So that would be things like visiting your website, filling out your inquiry or your contact form, jumping on a sales call, all those things. But it's also, and a lot of people forget that, it's also all those micro interactions that people have with your brand, those tiny, almost invisible touch points that may not seem like a huge deal in the moment, but can significantly contribute to the overall client experience. So this could be things like, for example, your contact form email confirmation. Is your client just getting a general thanks, we'll be in touch message? Or do they get a more personalized confirmation from you with, for example, a time frame so they know when to expect a reply from you, and maybe some next steps, or maybe even some resources that they could check out in the meantime? Or for example, this could be interactions that you have with your client on social media even. So do you engage with them there? Do you share about them on your own profile, and as a result drive more eyeballs to their business? So obviously I'm not telling you that you need to go and completely change your email confirmation and go and harass your clients on social media. But what I do mean is that those small details, they're going to matter and they're going to contribute to their overall experience. Every client is going to have some sort of level of expectation that needs to be met in order for them to have a good experience of working with you. But it's once you actually exceed those expectations that magic really happens. Let's say you're walking into a high-end restaurant, right? For a very special occasion. And the obvious interactions that you're going to expect from a place like this are, for example, the host is going to greet you. Hopefully they're going to smile at you. You're going to expect the place to be clean. You will expect the food to be good as well. And those are all essential and expected in a fine dining setting for you to be satisfied. But now imagine that at some point, the chef comes out and personally greets you and maybe even offers you an appetizer. And then the waiter sees that you're struggling to choose between two desserts and he proposes, how about I bring you a plate with small portions of both desserts? And then recently we went to this restaurant and they gave us cookies when they left, just for the road. Now, Chris, would you go back to a place like this?
Of course.
Exactly. And would you tell people about it?
Yes.
Exactly. Because while you expected good service, it's those small details that leave us not just satisfied, but delighted and far more likely to return and refer others as well. And the same thing can be applied to our design business as well. Now, the mistake that I see a lot is that people think that client experience matters from the project start to the project end. Like, this is how most people think about client experience. And often the level of care we provide to our clients actually starts really strong at the beginning, right? Because we're super excited about the project. And then it gradually dies down towards the end to the point where sometimes we just can't wait to wrap up the project and move on to something else. But in reality, your client experience begins way earlier, from the very first interaction with your brand. And that could be, someone landing on your website for the first time from a Google search, for example. But it could also be someone telling someone about you. So maybe, it's a ex-client, or maybe just someone who saw your TikTok and decided to share it with a friend. Already at that point, their perception of you is going to form. And that will be the beginning of their experience with you and your brand. So it happens way before the project actually starts. Just like with our example of the restaurant, the table reservation process could easily make it or break it for you. So recently we went to Turkey and we saw this restaurant that we really wanted to go to as a family, but their booking process was horrendous. You needed to contact them through WhatsApp, fine. But on the website, instead of having, for example, a button to be redirected to WhatsApp, or at least to have the phone number so you can save it and then go into WhatsApp and start a chat, they put a picture of the phone number. So obviously we didn't end up going to this restaurant because it took me forever to try to memorize the number or get another phone. The experience mattered. And as a result, we ended up going somewhere else and they ended up losing their customers. The real goal of the client experience is somewhere else. Do you want to take a guess where?
I have no idea.
Well, actually, it's in the client nurturing. It's what happens after the project is over. And once the project is over, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the time we just forget about the project. We move on to the next thing, to the next client. But this is actually where you can add additional brand touch points that a lot of people completely ignore this, by the way, to actually grow your client relationship and as a result, grow your revenue as well. So we'll talk about that in more detail a little later on. All right, now before we dive into the practical part of this, where we're actually gonna look at how you can build your own standout client experience, because really that's my goal for you after this, to be so pumped and so fired up to actually want and apply all of that and create your own amazing standout experience. But I do have some really awesome resources for you to follow along. So I have this workbook that you can download. There's a link there. It's 16creative.com/the future. And you can download the main workbook there. I break down everything step by step. So whether you're listening to this, watching the workshop, or I actually decide to do this later on, you can follow along.
Super. We'll include the links in the description for anybody that's watching this. Just check the description below.
All right. So let's dive into how to actually build your own standout client experience. And there are really 5 steps to actually achieve this. The first one is research. You need to understand what actually matters to your clients, because people are going to value all sorts of things. Some will value time, some money, some communication, some efficiency. Some will value speed over quality, or maybe they're really big on communication, or maybe they actually don't care how long it's going to take as long as the quality is like really, really high. And instead of making assumptions and thinking, well, my clients need all those things, you need to have conversations with your past clients and listen to what actually matters to them and what made a difference for them during your project. Why did they choose you? So some of the questions you could ask them are, what initially led you to actually choose me over someone else? Or what aspects of the project did you find most valuable? Or is there something that I did particularly well that impressed you or you remember? Or was there anything you wish that had been done differently? This will actually give you a starting point for your client experience and showcase what truly matters to your clients. When I was re-engineering my own client experience at the very beginning, I talked to my clients and I was surprised that the majority of my clients prefer to do this strategy call live versus filling out a questionnaire. So with some clients, I would basically send them a really long questionnaire with tons of questions about their business, their goal, their target market, all of that. But with others, with bigger projects, I was actually jump on a call with them and do this workshop style, do it live. And what I found is that live strategy clients all raved about spending 2 hours or 3 hours sometimes on this workshop. Whereas questionnaire clients, most of them said that they actually found this activity really daunting and really difficult and also very time consuming for them. And then when I was analyzing my process, which we'll do in a moment together, I realized that while I was thinking that the questionnaire is going to save me time, it was actually taking almost double the time because I had to review the client answers. I then had to reach out because there was missing information or needed clarification. Then we ended up actually still jumping on a call together and spending an hour going through their answers. So it wasn't actually saving me time. So to me, it was a clear message that I needed to let go of this questionnaire and just offer those workshops and position it in a way where the client sees the value so I can increase my prices as well for the extra time. And now it's actually one of my favorite parts of the process because I get to really show up for my clients and I get to really connect with them, which definitely adds extra brownie points to our relationship. But then, of course, you also need to consider what are you actually naturally good at and what can you deliver based on your current resources. Because, for example, if you're currently only freelancing part-time and maybe you have 2 kids at home and you only have about 3 hours a day to actually dedicate to project work, then speed is probably not going to be your selling point of your client experience. It's just not something that you can actually physically deliver on. So ideally, you want to avoid attracting the type of clients that value speed above everything else because you're not going to be able to do that. And that's okay. As I said before, you don't actually need to deliver on every single thing. You don't need to hit every single spot. You need to be aware of what you're capable of and also what you enjoy doing. And based on that, you can grow and expand your client experience. The next phase of this framework is to analyze. This is actually the fun part, at least for me. Because the purpose of this is to outline your entire process step by step and start analyzing it. So I created a little FigJam template for you that you can actually copy and use to create your own process. The purpose here is to outline every single step that your client and you go throughout your project. So starting from the inquiry, the sale experience, the onboarding experience, project, and then as we talked about, offboarding and nurture. The idea, as I said, is to outline every single step and also the different scenarios. So for example, during the inquiry, you can get an inquiry that could be a good fit and a bad fit. What happens in case of both? What happens if the client doesn't sign the contract? And however you do this, by the way, you can use technology, amazing FigJam, but my very first one, it was just pen and paper. This was from 2018. I literally sat down, took pen and paper and started writing it. So it doesn't matter how you do it. Whatever you do, I recommend categorizing it so you can see what are the emails that you send. What are the documents or the templates that you actually send to your clients? Where are the revision rounds? Where are the client calls? And then once you have all of this, you will take a look at this and you're going to decide on 4 things. What are the things that you can streamline? So shorten the process. What are the things that you can automate? What are the things that you delegate to a VA, a team member? And what are the things that you can get rid of altogether? Because there's going to be a lot of that. So for example, back then, my process, and this is just an example process, but my process from the inquiry to actually landing the client was, I'm going to have a sales call with them. I'm going to send them a proposal. I'm going to get them to confirm that they're happy with the proposal, send them a contract, get them to sign it, send them the deposit invoice, get them to pay it, and only then they're going to become a client.
Right.
And back then it made total sense. Back then I thought, okay, it worked.
Pretty logical.
Until I actually put it down on paper and realized that all of that could be shortened into one email or just one document. I could just send the proposal with the TNCs and they could be directly, I could have an automation that transfer them to the invoice after the sign. Or what I do now most of the time is to close the client on the sales call and then just send them quickly the TNCs, they sign them, they pay the invoice, and that's it. And I get the client within 30 minutes, whereas back in 2018, this process would take me days, if not weeks. But it seemed to make so much sense back then.
It makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of people who can listen to this. Like, yeah, that's my process right now. In case you're wondering what T's and C's are, terms and conditions.
Yes, thanks. Thank you for your contract. Thank you for clarifying. If the process works, it works. But at some point, if you want to increase the amount of clients that you want to take on, for example, and you realize that you just don't have the bandwidth, and you realize that you're spending weeks waiting on a client to go from sales call to actually closing the client, something's got to change, because you will realize suddenly your process is going to be way shorter, not because you're shortening it on purpose, but because you made it more efficient. So the other thing I actually realized, again, once I put this all down on paper, one thing I realized as well is that I was spending hours crafting proposals and presentations for my clients. And every time I was dreading doing that because I knew that it was going to take me so long. One of the first things I did is that I created templates for every single one of those documents. Templates that I could update in 30 minutes to an hour, send it off. And of course, this was a time commitment at first, but especially as a solo design studio, without having, especially back then, any extra help, I needed to make my process more efficient. Now, at the end of the project, when we need to actually create the brand style guide, I can send it out to my VA and she just needs to follow the instruction. We have exactly the same structure every single time, and we don't need to worry too much about that. And the other big thing that I realized and templatized was actually all of my emails. I was shocked when I saw how many emails do I send for every single project. They were taking me so much time, and they would always be the same email, but I would constantly type it from scratch. Where's the logic in that? So I created this massive Google Doc with all of my process emails from, this is a good fit, this is not a good fit, this is a reminder to sign your contract, this is your welcome email. Then I would actually bring them into my email app and add them as templates in there. So it would only take me a click, and then changing a couple of links, changing my client's name, and the email is ready. But the bigger game changer when it comes to emails was actually creating emails to deal with those uncomfortable situations. As a people pleaser, I would spend hours crafting the perfect email to tell the client to politely back off with the let's make it pop request and direct them to the contract. And I was realizing that it was having an impact on my mental health as well, because I would spend days thinking about that email. Over the years, I've definitely had my fair share of difficult client situations, lots of lessons, but I would just sit so long on writing that one email, thinking, what to write and then rewrite and send it off and immediately regret everything I wrote. And when I actually templatized those emergency emails, I was saving time, but I was also saving my sanity in a way. It was a huge help. So on the webpage I mentioned earlier, 16creative.com/the future, I actually shared a couple of resources for various email templates that you can also swipe. But I really encourage you to start building your own library for your own type of clients, your own process, your own situations, whether it's actually like documents or it's process emails that you send for your clients every single time. All right, moving on to the next stage of that framework is the implementation. And we kind of talked about this already, but what I mentioned here is to avoid completely changing your entire process and your entire customer experience at once. Start by deleting unnecessary steps in your process and then focus on, all right, what are the things that I can streamline? What are the things that I can automate, delegate before you actually even start adding anything new? And try to prioritize the things that you believe will actually make the biggest difference for you and your clients. You're not going to transform your client experience all at once. It's all about implementing, refining, testing, reviewing. It's always a work in progress, kind of like a designer's website. You're never really done. You're always working on it. So don't overwhelm yourself. Focus on one thing at a time and see how it works out with, a couple of clients before actually making it permanent. I love following Adam Mosseri on Instagram, and he has a broadcast channel where he shares about Instagram updates, new features, and all of that. And they never roll out features all at once across the globe. They always pick a couple, roll it out in certain areas, and see how that works. They test it out, see if it's a good idea. Sometimes it's not, and they decide to go with something else. And the same goes for your client experience. Don't roll out all of those changes at once because it's going to overwhelm your clients. It's also going to overwhelm you, and it's going to get messy. The next stage, and I love this one, is the delight phase. This is where you sprinkle those little surprise and delight elements into your customer experience. Going back to our example with the restaurant, the little additional touches that I mentioned, so the appetizer, the desserts, the cookies at the end, these are all surprise and delight elements that elevate your dining experience. Going back to Fig Jam, if you look at your process, you can start thinking about, okay, so what are the small, unexpected touches that I can make in my client's journey to make it a little bit more memorable? So for example, you could send a handwritten note when they become a client. Maybe, and I love this one, I actually do this with my clients, maybe at some point halfway through, you send them a Starbucks card, like a little pick me up halfway through to just say, hey, we're halfway there, let's power through. Maybe you can surprise them later on when you're done with their brand. Maybe you can surprise them with a brand teaser video. It may not have been included in your deliverables when you agree to it. So this is going to come as a surprise to them. But you already have a template for that you prepared in advance. So it's only going to take you, a short amount of time to actually do it. Or in the same way, you could create, a launch graphic or a video for their website launch. So they can actually share it on their social media. And it's also actually an opportunity for them to kind of give you a shout out and promote your services. So it's a little bit of a win-win here. And you don't need to do all of these things. I'm just giving you ideas here, kind of like food for thought. You could send them a little card for their brandversary. Brandversary for me, I mean the 1 year birthday after their brand or their website launch. You could send them a little note saying, hey, it's been a year since we launched a new brand, congratulations. Or maybe it can even be a happy birthday email, even if you're not working together with your client anymore. Surprise and delight elements, they don't need to be like those grand or expensive gesture. They are small, unexpected moments that will surprise your clients. And this is actually the kind of stuff that clients are going to remember and talk about. Because I'm sure that if you get a cookie at the end of your dinner, you're going to go and you're going to tell your friends about it. You're going to post a story on Instagram about it because it was unexpected. It was surprising. And finally, the very last stage of the framework is to review. So in addition to actually asking your client for feedback, maybe, you do a little wrap-up call, maybe you send them a short survey. You also want to do an internal project review for yourself to see how the project actually went. What are the things that you're proud about? What are the things that you believe could have gone better? And again, I really equipped you with everything you need here. I've included a resource for you. So it's a really simple 2-page PDF where you can add some details about the project. You can outline the project goals, whether you've met them or not. What was the client's overall feedback? Also, and I usually like to give myself a little rating for the project, right? So how do I feel about the onboarding process? How was the communication from the client side, from my side? What do I believe went well? What do I believe I could have gone better? Because it's not always about how your client interpreted it, but also you. A lot of this time, especially if we have a difficult client, for example, we put on a brave face, we do our best work, and maybe the client is really happy in the end and they give you like 5 stars in every single category. But for you, it was a complete disaster. You were disorganized, you lost some files, you forgot to save something, you did not respect your own boundaries. So it's important for you as well to take some time, and before you go and jump into the next project, to actually take a step back, reflect, and see what you can improve on for the next project.
That's good. It's good to include your own reflections and your notes because it's not just about what the clients think and feel. It's about how you feel about your own experience. You can look for ways to improve or to define different boundaries. Oftentimes when you have a bad client experience, it's a opportunity for you to learn so that the next time you hear the same kinds of things in your prospect, you could say, look, I've heard this before and I want to know how you're going to respond to X. And then depending on their answer, you could decide to accept them as a client or not.
Absolutely. And I think with every reflection, your own boundaries toughen up. You realize what are the things that you actually enjoyed in this project personally, and what do you need to seek in your future potential clients, or what are the red flags that you missed with this client that you need to be aware of for the next time. So absolutely, reflection will also help you just land better clients that you enjoy next time. And then of course, guess what? You do it all over again. Because as I said, your client experience is a constant work in progress. It's not like you went through all of these 5 steps, you created your client experience, and you can forget about it. It never really stops. You review, you reflect, you adapt, you try, you test it out, you try incorporating something new. That didn't really work out, or it was too demanding from your side. You didn't think that it would be so complicated. Maybe you tried a new tool and it didn't work out. You can try something else. Or you go back to a simple Google Doc to, I don't know, create your experience in there, whatever works for you. So in a nutshell, these are the 5 steps to kind of create your client experience. This is what the client experience is all about. Of course, as I said, it's not going to transform overnight, but it does have compounding effects, sort of speak, in the long run on your client lifetime value through repeat work and through referrals. Speaking of which, I do want to talk about the nurture experience. I know I teased it a little bit. The nurture experience may be that, I don't want to say a magic one because I don't believe that there is anything like that in business, but it could be that missing piece that can really transform the way that you work with clients and also just in general your client relationships. So I teased the importance of that earlier, and this in combination with project experience is what really helped me significantly grow my own design business by maintaining those strong relationships with existing clients and increasing their client retention rate, increasing the repeat project, and doubling that referral rate thanks to client satisfaction. So let's give this a little closer look. A lot of the time, what happens, as we saw earlier, is that our level of care, client experience, often dies down towards the end of the project, right? We're so in a rush to get to the next thing, to land the next client. We're basically constantly chasing that next opportunity, chasing that next lead, forgetting to actually nurture and leverage the relationships that we already have. When in reality, with minimal effort, we could completely change that. So instead of just cutting ties with your client at the end of the project, create a nurture sequence where you're going to check in with your client a couple of times throughout the next 6, 8, 12 months. The frequency and the time frame don't really matter. This is completely up to you. But the whole idea is that throughout the next few months after launching the project, you're going to casually check in with your client to really stay top of mind. So that means, for example, sending a quick check-in email after 1 month and just say, hey, how you doing? How's your website treating you? Did you get any cool results? Did you hit your goals? And then you can actually take that information and update their testimonial or the case study. Use that for marketing. Then let's say after a few weeks, you'll see, they landed a feature in a magazine, in Business Insider or in Forbes. So you celebrate that with them on social media. Maybe you even share their news on your stories and say, oh my God, I'm so proud of the clients I'm working with. And use this opportunity to also share that case study and share about their rebrand experience. So at the same time, you're promoting your services, you're showing social proof, and you're supporting your past clients staying top of mind once again. Then after that, you're gonna check in with them, let's say 3, maybe 6 months in, whatever it is. And you check in with them just to see how things are going. Maybe you saw on social media that they're preparing for, for some launch. Maybe they're launching a new service. So you just check in with them, say, hey, I saw this post. I saw that you're launching a new service. Congrats. So so happy with all the things that you're doing. So proud of you. Is there anything I can do to help? And then at some point later on, you send them a referral and then mention, 1 year in, you send them a brandversary card. Now, with these extra interactions, you're basically showing your client that you're in their corner. You're there. You're cheering them on. You're the person that they're going to think about when they actually need help or know someone who needs what you have to offer. Because so many times I had situations when I would send a quick check-in or a quick follow-up with a past client asking if they need help with anything. And they will come back to me saying, gosh, yes, I'm so glad you reached out. I wasn't sure if you were actually taking on new clients. I thought you were too busy. We can't just expect our clients to think of us all the time because they don't. They have their own lives. They're doing their own things. They're not thinking of you. You need to be proactive and take that step forward for them. And when you do that, something really amazing happens. This extra revenue. So suddenly that 10K project that you just wrapped up is bringing you an extra 7,000 through client referrals and repeat work. Now, of course, maybe, you would have gotten some extra work anyway from them. You would have maybe down the line, they would have been the one to reach out to you and maybe send you a referral, etc. But from my experience, the more thoughtful I am about proactively nurturing my client relationships, the client relationships I have with past clients, the more likely they are to come to me and refer me to other people. Take some time to think about what that nurture experience could look like for you and your client. And start to test it out. You don't need to go all in straight away. And I've actually included some nurture email templates in the workbook as well. Another reason to download it. So you have something to start with. But if you don't currently, for example, work with clients that you can test out this nurture sequence with, you can also just reach out to past clients. Check in with them. You probably have clients that you haven't talked to in ages. Thinking, but why are they not referring me? Why are they not coming back, for repeat work? Probably because they're busy running their own business and doing their own thing. But if you reach out, if you get into the spotlight, if you become top of mind, who knows, maybe they actually need your help. So ask them, how are they doing? How's their business? Is there anything I can help you with? Don't go in with expectations, Don't say, hey, I'm opening my books. I need clients. Give me some work. Make it casual. Maybe you can go on their website, see if anything is broken. Maybe you can offer to fix that for them. I had a client once who tried to set up a pop-up on her website by herself. And I was just randomly looking through client websites. It wasn't really, anything that I wasn't even thinking of reaching out to her. I just landed on her site, saw that there was a broken pop-up, reached out to her, offered to help it for free actually, because it was an easy fix, but she probably forgot about it. and it turned out into a 5K project because she actually wanted to refresh that entire page, just couldn't find the time. Don't take your past client relationships for granted. They are your salesforce. If they love working with you, they will sing praises about you. And especially if you're an introvert like myself, and so, going out there and pitching and networking, it just takes a lot out of you. This is the perfect marketing strategy because your clients will be doing that for you anyway. So I hope that this gives you some food for thought and actually gets you really pumped about creating your own standout client experience. And especially in today's world, when human interactions are so valued and they become more and more rare, with the rise of technology and AI, and the service industry is becoming so saturated, this can actually become your competitive advantage. If every single client of yours says that working with Tom is the best thing you'll ever do, his experience is phenomenal, and he says that to every single one of his friends, all of his startup friends and people who are thinking about starting a business, the experience is what clients are going to remember and rave about. So as I said, hopefully this gives you some food for thought. You can now take some time to review your own process, review your current client experience, talk to past clients, ask them what are the things that they value, what are the things they loved about working with you, and how can you amplify that in your current client experience.
Wonderful. Gigi, thanks for sharing this process, something that I admit I'm not very good at doing to my own detriment. Luckily, I have a team that does this, and I've had to learn over the years as I've noticed other service providers providing an amazing customer experience, especially after delivery. Thanks for sharing the resources. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Probably on my Instagram. So that would be 16creative. This is where I hang out daily, share tips and behind the scenes of my business, but also mostly I talk to other designers out there. So that's another thing. Once I really honed down into the client experience part, that was also around the time where I pivoted in my own business and actually started focusing more on the education side. Started talking more to designers on social media. So I kind of gradually stopped promoting my design business altogether. But the revenue that side of the business brings hasn't decreased. It increased because, as I said, the clients are doing the marketing for me. Yes, of course, I will share, here's a really cool project we just launched. We just wrapped working with this person. And for example, next week, I'm having actually podcast interviews with some of my past clients. It's also a marketing strategy where we actually talk about their client experience. But I stopped constantly, daily think about, how can I reach my clients on Instagram? Because the clients were marketing for me. So once you really transform your client experience, you focus on your client's experience, and you create this amazing client journey, you can also, I don't want to say take a step back, but you can also relax a little bit when it comes to trying to be everywhere at the same time. But yes, you can go and check out my Instagram at 16creative.
Wonderful. So if you've enjoyed this presentation, if you got some value, go give Gigi a follow at 16creative on Instagram. You can learn a lot more. She's probably got a lot more resources for you on her Instagram feed. Gigi, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.